Hi, everybody. I'm Yael Kumar, CEO at SolidBlock. Happy to be here. And we are working on problem of wealth generation through investment in real estate. We are working in the market of $300 trillion value, where only 1% of that value is liquid or otherwise tradable. So our mission is to make real estate work for everyone. There are three primary challenges for real estate investors. Number one, you need a lot of money to start investing. Number two, you cannot access good deals. And number three, your money is locked for 5 to 7 years in a deal. So SolidBlock enables investors to buy and sell any asset at any time, just like NASDAQ for real estate. We transform property into tradable product, connecting asset owners with investors and traders through our token origination platform, where we mint these digital securities, and we partner with multiple trading platforms, exchanges, and investor networks where investors are located. Our first use case was in fact, the first industry successful tokenization for the St. Regis Aspen ski resort. It raised $18 million using our platform. It experienced a high token upside in the first 18 months, where it was listed on an exchange called T0 and is now trading there at around $1.20, but it launched at $1.30 before COVID, and it resulted in a good initial revenue for SolidBlock. So our current milestone is we've developed this token origination platform in the last 2 years, and now we are continuing on our roadmap to become the financial services platform. So imagine a bank and all the different services that you would expect by putting your dollars in a bank. And in our investment bank, you put in your real estate dollars or your real estate, and then you can have access to loans, DeFi loans, the decentralized finance loans from peer networks. You will be able to use these tokens for payment, create different funds or REITs of your own, derivatives, indices, benchmarks, all kinds of trading tools. And our final milestone is to create the first decentralized investment bank focused around real estate towards the path of exit by acquisition by one of the centralized and big investment banks. Right now, in terms of the competition, we have several large, very successful companies like Securitize, Vertalo, Polymath that service private equity companies. They do not service real estate. It's a different type of product, different animal for them altogether. SolidBlock is focused just on property. We have some noteworthy competitors in that space, such as RealBlocks and Red Swan. They're probably the most successful, as well as Invenium. It's more a partner than a competitor. They work on connecting IoT from commercial buildings to commercial projects to be able to provide daily valuation of properties. So, and in our space, SolidBlock, we're a marketplace. We're focused on property, and we are focused on connecting these assets to the secondary markets. The only other company that right now in the space is doing that, it's connecting real estate to DeFi is Realty. They work primarily in single family residential, and we work with commercial properties. We have a portfolio spanning mainly commercial assets, so detox facilities, medical facilities in Florida. We have a resort in Panama, and we have a portfolio of a bond based on London property. My co-founder Yuval is in the IT space. He's had many years in a technical background. Myself, I have a more financial background, studying on Wall Street, going through private equity and M&A career, working for Ernst & Young and working on IPOs. And I arrived to blockchain. Both of us came to blockchain about 4 or 5 years ago, through different paths, and joined forces in 2019. We have a fantastic team spanning mainly 3 continents, I guess. Majority of our team is in Israel. Our company is US based. We have 5 employees in North America, and an office in India and an office in Eastern Europe, focused on different parts of the company. Our advisory board has very impressive individuals from all walks of life, from the former CEO of Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, Gal, who's helping us with the secondary market aspect. Being a startup in the fintech space, we have a large number of partnerships to complete pieces of the supply chain, from exchanges to broker dealers to crowdfunding websites. And we're finished our previous round, the seed round of $1,100,000. Now we're raising $1.7 million. We just had the lead investor put in $500,000, Draper Associates, and we need about another $1,100,000, which will close by the end of the year. Thank you very much.
Should I go first? Yeah.
Hi.
Hang on. Microphone. There you go. Cool. Thanks. Good pitch. This is a tough one because I think it's a great space, and you guys are obviously far along. I guess it depends some on who the audience is for this pitch and who the target of the capital raise is. It sounds like you got sophisticated investors, so they're probably interested in a more sophisticated pitch. This space is really hard for the average investor to understand, and so I guess I'm wondering, first of all, before I provide any of the feedback, is, are you trying to bring this kind of visibility and deal flow to ordinary investors who have the capital to invest in commercial real estate but aren't associated with a fund or a private equity group that would do it in a traditional sense? Or are you trying to even get to like a more man on the street, person on the street, type investment thesis? Because I think I like this space a lot. I think blockchain and tokenization is going to bring a lot to real estate, commercial real estate and consumer, but it's still very hard to understand. And so I would like to see, maybe in a pitch like this, like, here's the traditional investment path. Steve, who has a little bit extra cash, puts it with his banker puts it in a private equity fund. He has no idea where it goes. He has no idea which commercial entities they deployed in terms of real estate. He has no idea when the return horizon is. He has no liquidity. Like, those are all the problems in that path. And here's what you guys solve, right? I get to know what real estate I'm in. I get to maybe even direct some of that. I get liquidity through the token. Here's how liquidity happens. Here are the exchanges. Like, just a little bit, it's just a really complex space, and you guys obviously are a pretty sophisticated company where you are. So that part is the only kind of feedback on the pitch. I love the business and the idea, and what you guys are doing is going to be a huge space for sure. But sometimes these pitches, especially around blockchain, are just hard for people to understand. That's all.
That's a great feedback, and I appreciate that. And definitely, I'll incorporate a slide on how this is different from the traditional process. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, investors want to make money, and so if that's the target, showing them the path to their returns is just kind of a simple way. And then if you've got a really sophisticated investor who's going to put a real amount of money in, then you can go into, here's how we're making the market, and here's how the tokenization works, and here's what we're minting with, and all the blockchain side and the tech side. But anyways, otherwise, it's a good pitch. I think it's a wonderful space. So.
Yes, I have the same feedback. I'm a lowly average investor, and I got confused. I know the space, I know what you're doing conceptually, and then I really started to swim with all of the other stuff kind of built in. Are you targeting, I'm gonna call them Joe Schmo, who might be interested in real estate investing, all those folks that Calvin's going to create that have all that extra money? Are you targeting those people, or are you targeting people who already know the space really well?
So the Joe Schmo will likely come to an exchange, and the exchanges are targeting everybody, right? So, and then they work with much lower amounts. We work with numbers in thousands of dollars. So we actually would rather target high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth. It's much easier for us in terms of management. And so, we probably would need to, speak to people that understand real estate a little more. They don't have to necessarily understand blockchain or crypto, because the only difference from what we're doing and other, let's say, crowdfunding platforms or other investment platforms is that we are giving an exit pathway and of liquidity to the investors, right? So they could invest through, CrowdStreet or YieldStreet, or if they're sophisticated enough, they can probably go directly to an asset and, to St. Regis, and if they have $500,000, or, go invest in that asset, but then they'd have to sit on it for 5 to 7 years. And we hear this a lot. We hear actually from fund managers or brokers that they brought a bunch of investors to a project, and right now, because the economy or the market is not great for that specific project, the owner doesn't want to sell, so the investors don't have exit, right? So it's been 5 to 7 years, and they still cannot get their, they're getting their dividends, but they want their money. And so we are giving the solution right there. Right. So the path is not that sufficiently different. Just that piece, maybe I should have mentioned, in the St. Regis example, you're normally expected to get 5 to 6% annual return because it's a landmark asset, right? These people who invested because of the high increase of the token, they were able to exit a year and a half later and get the dividends on top of this, and they got 20% annual return, right? Because they didn't have to, the highest increases happen in the first year, usually first 2 years, because, they did some renewals and value add to the hotel, right? So now the value spiked. They didn't have to wait until they refinance. So that's what I should have shown, like basically the increase of the value for people who sell early.
I think that's important. I mean, I think you have two things. One, you're not targeting a new investor, so I don't think you have to worry about like explaining what's going on in the blockchain world of tokenization, although people do perceive that, even some sophisticated investors, to have undue risk because of everything that's going on in DeFi, so maybe there's some of that. For a more sophisticated investor deploying $500,000 or $1 million at a time, the other thing I'd like to see in a pitch like this is, I think all people in your space are trying to figure out how to map those investments and the tokenization to like traditional tax and wealth building strategies, and not knowing what's going to happen from a regulatory standpoint and tax with tokenization, some of that kind of stuff. It'd be interesting also as a sophisticated investor to know, can I still participate in some of those tax advantages? If I buy a token that has in its portfolio, for instance, a series of commercial properties that are in opportunity zones, can I get liquidity through the marketplace and still, achieve the tax benefits of opportunity zones, or do I lose that because it's tokenized? Like, I would have more interesting questions around, kind of some of the tax and regulatory stuff too that's coming down the pipe. And so, in a more sophisticated investor pitch, maybe a slide on what you're up against there and what some of the advantages of that might be for you guys.
Yeah.
With that,
thank you so much. That was great.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.